He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Good morning and welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are working so hard to make coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play. You know, I often talk about coastal Mississippi being this collection of coastal communities, each with its own rich history, the authentic culture, and the sense of place. We live in paradise, and this show, Coast View, is about celebrating how lucky we are to live here. I talk about this concept of sense of place on a regular basis. So what exactly is that? What is sense of place? Well, it's about geography, but it goes further than that. It's really about sort of the emotional connection that each of us has with a place. It could be here, it could be somewhere else. It's visual, it's social, it's cultural. It could actually have history attached to it. But the sense of place that exists in each of the communities that make up coastal Mississippi is what makes each of those towns different from the other. When you bring it all together, coastal Mississippi has a secret sauce, and it's that collection of communities that make this region so powerful. I call it our competitive advantage. But it takes big money, and it takes a lot of investors who are really committed to contributing toward that sense of place. These people have a vision for the customer experience, for customer service. They know what they want visitors and locals to say when they go to visit their places, and they create an experience that makes people want to come back for more. So in a recent conversation I had with Josh Morganman, he's been on the show several times. He's the top hurricane hunter in the world, rented a house in Bay St. Louis during the hurricane season. He's got an international hit TV series. He lives in Los Angeles. He grew up in New York, but he talks about Bay St. Louis now as his town. In a recent dinner that my wife Ann and I had with him in the Bay, he talked about the sense of place in the Bay that he fell in love with my wife Ann and me. But to achieve that place that he described, that sweet spot and sense of place, you have to have a big collection of monomaniacs on a mission, working to make their visions become something special. What he said about us is exactly what you want people to say about us when they visit us. We're lucky in coastal Mississippi because we've got a lot of visionaries here. We got people, visionaries with money is what I call them, who are working hard to make their visions a reality. And I'm thrilled today to have two of them joining me on Coast View, Jourdan and Phil Nicaud of the Nicaud Restaurant Group. They're doing their part to sort of transform the downtowns of coastal Mississippi. Good morning, Jourdan and Phil.
Good morning.
It's good to see you guys. So you opened your first restaurant. Phil, you were 14. Jourdan, you were 21. You're only just 24 and 30 today. It's pretty amazing. And I look forward to kind of sharing your story with the listeners today so that people can understand the scale of your company. Jourdan, why don't you tell us the footprint across coastal Mississippi?
We go from Bay St. Louis to Ocean Springs.
Yeah. And what are the companies?
We have Fields in Bay St. Louis, Bacchus, Hotel Pass Christian, and Philip Billups in Pass Christian. And in Biloxi, we have a Philip Billups as well. And we're actually almost complete with Fields Steak and Oyster Bar, Fields Flights, Steak and Oyster Bar. And then in Ocean Springs, we have Chard and Rooftop.
Man, it's incredible. And visions for more and more stuff. You actually have a specific benefit. You like taking sort of old structures and transforming them. Talk about that for a second.
You know, I really do. So we've been very fortunate. You know, the initial project that we actually did was the current hotel in Pass Christian, which was a project that had been talked about for a very long time, and had a bunch of people that had owned the property and had wanted to do something like we did there, and just things had just always fallen through. So we were able to kind of purchase the plans, purchase the property, and bring back to life something that the city really wanted, everyone really wanted. We were very fortunate in that one. We're currently bringing back the old Hotel Magnolia, which was the first hotel on the Gulf Coast. I think it was 1870, and that's been a really awesome project as well.
Yeah. So, and there's more, but let's do this. I want to take a step back for a second. And Jourdan, while I'm having this conversation, we'll come to you next, Phil. Jourdan, you went to Tulane University. You were in pre-med. You played football there, and you dropped out. And your parents were not very happy with you, were they?
They were not happy with me at all. No, they said, I came home, told them I was going to open a restaurant, and they just said, I don't understand why. Go ahead and finish up your school and finish up your degree, and you go to med school, and then later on, if you decide you want to have a doctor, you'll have something to fall back on. And I just really wasn't willing to wait, honestly. I had an idea, I had a passion, and I saw what was going on in New Orleans, and I wanted to bring something like that back to the Gulf Coast.
Well, your dad, Kent Nicaud, who was the administrator for Memorial and Gulfport, I'm sure he had a vision for you, and the last thing he expected was for you to do this. But they're sort of proud of you today, aren't they?
They are. They've changed. They are proud of me. It took them a little while to get to that place, but they always helped me out, and they never really said, we're not helping you because you didn't follow vision. So they were always there to kind of be my support and my backbone as we went through all these projects.
Well, that's cool. So, Phil, you went to Ole Miss, and you ended up in New York. Tell me about that journey.
Well, when I started young, obviously, said 14, I really found a love for food. Obviously, we're not small guys, but after that, I went to Ole Miss. I was about to graduate my senior year.
Hey, Phil, hey, real quick, mention your grandmother.
My grandmother actually. So when I was about 17 when First Bacchus started.
Yeah.
And she did all the rest, like homemade dressings, and we would follow her dressings to a key, to where when she would come in the kitchen, she would try them. And if they weren't perfect, if they were missing one thing, she had the talent to tell you, hey, you're missing the capers in this dressing. Hey, the lemon juice is not here, it's bitter. And that's kind of where she taught me that the little things count in life.
Yeah. So you went to New York. So continue the story.
Yes, sir. I went to New York. I'm very close to my brother. I look up to him, and I follow his leadership. So he told me, hey, what's your passion in life? I was kind of stuck. I'd opened a club in Oxford, and he told me what's your passion, and he said, well, let's get you to culinary school. He said, obviously the best restaurants around are New York and California. ICE, who had just won #1 school in culinary, so they had both scholarships there, and I went to New York. The best part of it is it wasn't just like a French cooking school. It was more of kind of you travel the world with different teachers, and it lasted for about 2 years. It was a lot of fun. But the best part of it is while I was there, I was going from school from 8 to about 4 p.m. and then I'd go work at different restaurants. I hopped around to about 6 restaurants, all different cuisines, and I kind of came back, and we're here now.
But during that time, though, you had an opportunity to work with some really amazing chefs. Tell about that.
Yes. Anywhere from it's called Bohemian. It's a Japanese steakhouse. It's about 14 tables in there, really small, but they have them all around the world and unique places. The one that I worked at was in Soho. It was really unique, where it was just this little room who had about 10 tables, and you had to go through a hallway to get to it, and say a passcode and an email just to get in. They had places all around the world. The Amazon is one. And then from there, I went to, it's called La Nacional. It's a Spanish restaurant. I fell in love with paellas, because paella is just kind of like our jambalaya. Obviously, there's different cooking terms, but that's where I wanted to learn an aspect. And then one of my favorite restaurants, 11 Madison, which is #2 in the world as we know it. It's a Michelin star, James Beard awarding. I learned, obviously, that was one of the biggest kitchen I've actually worked in. And working on one aspect is true, like where I literally just stuffed oysters for a whole month. That's what you do in that kitchen. It's not, you're doing multiple positions where we're used to down here. And it really made me care about a kitchen and fall in love with it.
Well, you know, chefs have become famous on TV today. You know, Iron Chef, for example. You had the opportunity to work with one yourself, didn't you?
Jose Garces, very, very talented guy. And where I learned from his aspect is I actually learned that how he occupies 7 different restaurants up there in Philadelphia, and how he takes care of each one, and the leadership of each team that he had. It's like he had 7 different families, and it was a very mind-blowing fact to me.
You know, it's what we've all come to understand about running successful restaurants by watching these TV shows. You get to see it's so far beyond the recipe. It's about commitment to quality and how the team works together Was that a surprise to you when you went up there to see just how, I mean, it's like a football team. Everybody's got their part. They've got to play together as a team to be successful. That was a tremendous learning, wasn't it?
That was a great, yes, it is like a football team. And obviously me and my brother are both big football players. Yes, it's like a team. You actually have to come together. And if one person's not working with it, it can burn the kitchen down. No matter if it's a prep cook in the morning or a dishwasher at night. If you're not working as a team, it definitely will bring the kitchen down and you will fail.
24 years old, buddy. I'm amazed. There's been some really successful people who are young in age. We're visiting this morning with Jourdan and Nicaud. They work in a very successful restaurant company together, and it's one of the inspiring things about having the opportunity to do this show when you get to see two young men involved in Nicaud Restaurant Group and their commitment to coastal Mississippi. When we come back after the break, I want to really get into this contribution they're making, not just through their food, but through their developments, adding to the sense of place of coastal Mississippi. We'll be back with Jourdan and Field after this break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the Coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk 103.1. Listen to Ole Miss football on SuperTalk 103.1.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to frequently touch surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. You know, one of the beauties of doing this show, I mean, I say it all the time, is I get an opportunity to connect with people who are making a difference in coastal Mississippi. And this morning is literally no different than that. I'm with Jourdan and Phil Nicaud of the Nicaud Restaurant Group. They've made contributions to downtowns across coastal Mississippi, and we're going to get to that in a second. I want to ask you real quick, Jourdan, who's your hero?
Very tough question, but so obviously I've got to start off with I know that at least mine on a trip does as well is our mother and father and our aunt. They've been really there to help guide us into the people that we become. And really, our family motto has always been, since we're growing up, work what makes life sweet. And so, that's kind of something that we've kind of grown up learning. And so we've always been there that you have to work hard, and the harder you work, hopefully the sweeter your life will be. And obviously, so celebrity life's, heroes would be Richard Branson or Elon Musk, who I think are really just intuitive people, and I think are very just people that are, have really just taken life, and just made their ideas to become to the future. And Richard Branson, I really, really like, is basically, it says, if someone gives you an opportunity, say yes and figure out how to do it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I talk about Elon Musk regularly. He's someone I follow very closely as well, and what he's doing across the spectrum is truly remarkable. And I talked about him just specifically this week. Phil, who's your hero?
I think I have multiple, but as I obviously get in the kitchen books, doing a lot of studying, I kind of come to, I like a little bit of everybody. I like to pull some aspects from different styles of cooking. But if I had to get down to it, I guess it would be Emeril Lagasse. Obviously, he started very young and kind of grew, and that's where I'm at right now, and I'm trying my best at.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Emeril myself. Had the opportunity to get to know him along the way, talk to him, when I was publisher of the Times-Picayune pretty regularly via email, and he's very committed. Not just to his trade, but to the community through his foundation. And he's such a great personality, and we're lucky to have his connection because obviously his wife is from coastal Mississippi, and that gives us a great connection to him. What time do you get up in the morning, Phil? Just curious.
So I kind of run the day-to-day process. So it kind of goes from getting a call before the COVID, but 3 a.m. when we had our bar open, or to, hey, at 7 o'clock the roads are shut down and it's and I can't get the food truck there, so we got to load it up in the truck or get a golf cart and bring it down. So kind of floats from day to day. Yeah.
What about you, Jourdan? What time do you get up in the mornings?
It's the same thing. It's kind of floats. Really depends on what time our first meeting is, and what time we end up going to bed. Because a lot of times the work I do during the day is almost all hands on. Where at nighttime it's more of a planning type, getting all the paperwork, procedural work done. So usually they're going to bed around 12 to 1 a.m. So
you don't get a lot of sleep is basically what you're saying. But that's true. Hey, listen, that's true of any monomaniac on a mission. You got work to do, and you can't defer that to other people. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, when I talked about sense of place at the beginning of the show, Jourdan, you really get that, don't you?
As far as what?
Sense of place, this ability to create this place that people want to come to add to the sense of place.
Well, that's been kind of fortunately how we basically we open restaurants and run restaurants is basically what we look for is vacancies in the market. So places, areas where hey, there isn't a great steakhouse over here, or hey, there's a restaurant that needs to be here, or hey, Mexican restaurant needs to be here. And kind of what we do is we go to the market, kind of listen to all the customers or people that are around the area, and have them tell us what needs to be there, and from there we develop the concept to match with what they're telling us.
Well, that's cool. So what has evolved, though, you've gone beyond restaurants. Like, for example, the development you recently did in Ocean Springs, it's mixed use. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's going to be an awesome development. Hopefully opens up November 4th. And what it is you have a restaurant downstairs. We're going to have 4 hotel rooms on the second story and a rooftop bar on the third story, and trying to get that live, work, play lifestyle over there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to a similar thing with Josette's in Biloxi. There'll be an apartment complex that'll have about 4 commercial aspects there, and it'll be the same thing. It'll be a live, work, play concept. And then in Gulfport, we're redeveloping the old Village Square, and that's going to be something that we're really excited about. And it's going to be almost like a startup type place for people who want to have small businesses or small offices, and almost like an incubator, trying to let people come to that area and see everyone else's visions and develop their own ideas.
What I love about the synergies that the two of you are creating together. So, Fields, you've gone off and you've learned the intricacies of how to be successful in a successful restaurant operation. And Jourdan, you've been sort of branching out and beginning to understand development better and what communities need. But the way y'all come together, I mean, like a great example for just to mention this is that with the development in Ocean Springs that you just mentioned, where you're going to have hotels and the rooftop bar and then the restaurant down below, Phil, what you brought to the table in that is a very unique approach to tacos, for example, that you have envisioned for that place. Talk about that for a second.
As we talked about earlier, I worked under Jose Garces. Obviously, in a Hispanic background, I worked in all 7 of his kitchens, and I kind of saw the way he did it, but I brought a kind of a coast life to it, where I did crawfish tacos, I did crab cake tacos, where he was not doing that kind of stuff in Philadelphia. But I got a creative mindset where my brother came in and told me, hey, I believe this is work. I know the people around here. Let's get this kind of restaurant down here. And so I just started going to the drawing pads, like what I like calling it.
It's really cool. And the artwork, for example, how that evolved and how that sort of defined things. Talk about that for a second.
That was all his idea.
Jourdan, talk about it.
Well, really want to do a mural. We kind of purchased a property that had been sitting in downtown for a little while, and it was about halfway done. And we wanted to kind of give some more life to that property, and wanted to have a mural that kind of stood for what Ocean Springs is, what the Gulf Coast is. And we actually did a little Facebook campaign where we had a bunch of artists to submit ideas and had a cash prize for them, the winning idea. And we let people on Facebook, and I think Sun Herald helped out a little as well, and let them all vote on it. And fortunately, everyone voted, and Kayla did a great job on it. And it just came out looking really, really great.
It definitely brings your eyes to the building.
Say it again now.
It definitely brings your eyes to the building.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. So it's about, I love the fact that you're young and you've reached out into social media world. You've got someone actually running your social media for you today. You're really smart from a marketing point of view. Phil, you talked about the wow factor. Tell me more about what you were referring to.
So the wow factor is kind of when the plate gets put in front of you, is what I call it. Is yes, you always want to make your food taste good. Obviously, presentation, you want it to take good. But when it comes to your table, I want more of a show. And that's what my new restaurant, Field of Flights, is going to be coming, is that we're going to actually mind-blow people with this aspect when it hits your table. I do a little bit of a field steak and oyster bar where the steak comes out on fire. We're at Rooftop, where we do the levels of the pizza, Mexican pizza, and where Milton will actually do a carving at your table. And that's kind of what I'm going for at this new place, but a little bit more in depth, where we'll have the flight aspect, where everybody's kind of wondering what we're going to do, what is flights, and everybody's thinking beer flights, wine flights. There will be food flights. Kind of, I want to go into an aspiration of 3 different dishes in one.
Well, you mentioned Milton, but that's Chef Milton Joachim who's going to be involved in that project. And you also talked about one of the things I love about it. You took some ideas from New Orleans. You're actually going to have aging meat where people can see it. Tell about that.
One of my all-time favorites, and I think his too, is Doors Metropolitan. And when you walk in their restaurant, they have an aging room. Now, I actually started getting more divine into my aging room. We'll be aging steaks with bacon grease over it and doing other cool aspects of that I'm excited to bring to the coast.
So when I was involved in media, the company that I worked for was in One World Trade, the World Trade Center. And so I was in New York all the time. And I got to go to some of the best restaurants in the city. And the process that they went through to age their meat was unbelievably refined. And most people most people who don't know the process don't realize just how significant that is to create an amazing cut of meat. Tell a little bit about that.
I mean, it definitely puts your work up to a dish. It's not one of those things where you get the dish that day and you create the aspect. You have to wait over 40 to 60 days to serve that dish. So you got to think of it as my chefs. All my chefs are very young. We're trying to go for the kind of the young generation. The guy that's going to be cooking at Field of Flights with me he's only 24 too, and he's from Charlotte. He's a great cook, but the passion he puts into it is what I look for. The love factor. And the aging part is kind of what I say, the love factor. You can't just, hey, this dish is going to be created now. You have to wait these 60 days and prepare yourself. Hey, it's going to be on my food cost at the end of the month. Am I willing to put that on me?
There is a wow factor to that. We're out of time, guys, but look, we're going to come back together again as you continue to evolve and you have more to talk about as it relates to your restaurant openings, et cetera. But you're both an inspiration, and it's been a real pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to meet Jourdan. You. I've been hearing lots about you and build you. The collaboration between the two of you is really outstanding. And I just want to thank you on behalf of Coastal Mississippi. Thank you for your commitment to creating a better sense of place in Coastal Mississippi. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ricky.
It's my pleasure. When we come back, we have Mayor FoFo Gilich of Biloxi.
Listen to Ole Miss football on SuperTalk 103.1.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you, and it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Back to Coast View. That was such a terrific conversation with Jourdan and Phil Nicaud. And it's a reminder of the kind of passion and investment and vision and, commitment and tenacity, and you can add to it whatever other words you want to add to it. But these are the kind of people it takes to build a sense of place in coastal Mississippi. And we're lucky that we've got this large group of investors with vision who are really determined. I call them monomaniacs with a vision and money. They're really committed to bringing more of the kinds of things to coastal Mississippi that create an experience for people, not only locally, but the visitors, that makes them want to come back for more. And man, we're lucky. What a fascinating conversation. I can't wait to have them back and continue that conversation. Now let's move over to the mayor of Biloxi, Mayor FoFo Gilich, and say good morning. How you doing, Mayor?
Good morning, Ricky. I'm doing fine. And let me just give you a little comment that it takes all the vision and tenacity and commitment and money to do the things that they've done and to do things we all want to get done down here. So, they're very special folks and very special family, and they'll the product they're going to deliver will shine for sure. So
they've got a couple of projects that they've announced. In fact, they've got more than a couple of projects in Biloxi currently, but a couple of new projects that they're working on. And what's really cool about sitting in your spot as the mayor, who's really has such a deep roots in Biloxi and understands the sense of place in Biloxi, culture and history, and the visual aspects of it, you get it better than anyone. You get to see this train load of people who are coming into your office talking about what they want to do in this city. It's a cool place to be, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And it just, like I said, I couldn't be any happier to lead, my hometown and the families and the spirit that we have here in Biloxi. So, it's not a job to me. It's a passion, like Phil's and Jourdan too. So you and I've talked about this several times, but one thing is for sure, you didn't do this because you needed a job. You did this because you wanted to contribute to your home, and so that when your passion is making your home a better place, you almost can't go wrong, can you? No, you can't. I mean, you look at what your grandparents and your parents did for you, and here in Biloxi, and we talked about the stories of the families of Biloxi. But hey, you would be remiss if you didn't carry it on. So that's I've got the opportunity to do it, and I'm all in.
There's so much in the works. Holy mackerel! But we'll come to some projects in just a second, but. It looks like that we're sort of going to make it through this hurricane season. Maybe one more good cold blast, and we can sit back and know that's for sure. So we should never drop our guard. It's still hurricane season. But, man, have we been lucky this year.
We have been, and amen to that. I'm glad for November to come along and 2020 to end. I said probably the last show, I took my foot and inserted it in my mouth early on in January. I said, hey, man, why don't you just so happy to look forward to 2020? Doesn't this just sound good, man? Couldn't be further from the 180 degrees off there. I'm ready for it to be done and ready for 2021. But anyway.
Remember, okay, you and I've talked about this before, but just for listeners who may not have heard this before, the Coast View 2021 rule is we cannot discuss 2020. You're good with that, right?
So, amen.
But hey, all kidding aside, we've been lucky this hurricane season, and you think about things like cruising the coast and how it went off mostly without a hitch. I mean, we had a threat from a hurricane system and all the things that were going on.
Yeah,
but we're lucky to have good leadership, not only in our EOCs, but across the communities and counties that make up coastal Mississippi. And they didn't overreact to this storm. I mean, the threat early on was very significant, but the goal was to take a deep breath and be calm, and let's see how this thing unfolded. We didn't want to put anyone at risk, and it sort of played out that way. But it took good leadership not to overreact, didn't it?
I think so. I mean, you got to be cautious. We've seen it happen. I've seen, close calls and wrong calls, and, we'll just have to see. And that's what I think would happen. Even, you look at the threat on Wednesday night and Thursday night before, in cruising, and it just kind of worked out. And I had a sense, you had a sense, a gut feel, not a sense, just say, hey, I think it's going to be not like what, and everything is always not what it seems. So it turned out that way, and we're not complaining about it.
Yeah, it was, I hate it for the communities that the storms went into. I'm thinking of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, had those mayors on my show, and man, they took a licking. And then, of course, our friends over in southwestern Louisiana, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I was saying that wrong to begin with. And to get hit twice. Yeah. By Hurricane Laura and then Delta, unbelievable. But the good news, yeah.
I didn't mean to jump in, but even the threat kind of brought the long-term kinds of things we need to address as far as evacuation. Where do you go? What do you do? It brought there was sort of boat parades 2 or 3 times this past year.
Yeah.
Watch where it bottlenecked right around where we live, and the need that, hey, we need some sort of bridge that does not have to open all the time to marine traffic when people are trying to evacuate, through our neighborhoods and get away. So I mean that, and I think people have. I'm talking about the other, the state leaders. Hey, we need a bridge. We need a bridge, one that is not subject to the things that have happened. Even it got stuck a couple of times, and even since then, it takes hours to overcome that little bottleneck. So it brought some attention to that.
So the boat parade that the mayor is talking about is when they do a mandatory evacuation of the various harbors and marinas of coastal Mississippi. They come to the backwaters through Biloxi Bay and into the rivers to Hurricane Hole, to the Intercoastal Canal, all these different places, and they have to pass under the Pops Ferry Road Bridge, which has to open. And it's old technology. It's constantly driving you guys crazy with getting stuck. And it's really an important, internal, roadway for coastal Mississippi. So I know you've been really focused on that for a while. I don't have great thoughts about whether we're going to get it anytime soon with the way the deficit is looking and all the other issues they're going to be facing. But let's hope that we can.
We can. We're looking at a lot. We've got some requests for information or proposals. These things take 10, 15 years to do, to get new bridges. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it. We've even investigated, you can do some things in 3 or 4 years with toll bridges, or, and my goal is to, have that north-south all the way to 67, which would involve maybe a bridge or from a connection between I-10 and the Margaret Sherry Library, Pops Ferry area, and then another new bridge, which most of the people would be going over. So it may be partly toll, but we're going to, take the temperature. And if you see them all in Alabama and Florida, and it just matters. If you can do it in 3 years, is it worth that much money? Is it worth $40 a year for you to be able to ride on 2 bridges that are not subject to those kinds of things?
Well, actually, there are some great examples, as you pointed out, in Alabama and in Florida. So it'd be interesting to see how that all plays out. The other sort of always there threat is COVID. I mean, a lot of people want to hope that it goes away. It's not going to go away. It's going to take a vaccine for us to be able to get anywhere near back to a normal life. In the meantime, we just got to learn to live with it. And this show has been really focused on the tools to fight COVID, the face mask, social distancing, washing your hands, not touching your face, protecting the vulnerable. Those have not changed since day one. That's where we are today. And, the city continues to do a good job on its videos, doing sort of daily updates about the numbers and what the situation is. But what's the situation today as you see it, Mayor?
Well, I think you said it's got to flow through. It's got to flow through the system, all these systems, and over the course of time. And it may be next April before this is really over with. But, the number of people who are getting hammered with it, through one condition or the other. But, on message, the whole thing's keep your distance, wash your hands, wear your mask, to protect others, even if you do come down with it. That's the main thing. It's almost like seat belts in the old days, making yourself do those kinds of things. It's the right thing to do. So that's the seat belt, if you will, for this situation we find ourselves in.
I think you're right about this. In the beginning, people didn't know people who had it. I think today maybe lots of people know people who got it, and unfortunately, some people who have really struggled with it, and unfortunately, maybe some people who have died. Now, the good news is the care and the regiment they do to treat it has gotten so much better than it was in the beginning. But it's still a terrible virus for people who are vulnerable. And, we had to protect all of us, but especially the vulnerable. I have a friend of mine, really dear friend up in the Delta. I have a place up in the Delta, and really a very close farmer friend of mine. His father and his mother both have COVID right now, and his 91-year-old grandfather has it. I mean, it's running through his family, and I'm praying that they can get through this. So far, so good for them, but it takes a little bit of time, unfortunately, with the older people to understand what the impact is going to be. But we've got to take care of the vulnerable. Why don't we do this? This is Mayor FoFo Gilich from the city of Biloxi. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Universal Broadwater Project, Tivoli, and whatever else might be on the mayor's mind.
You want to talk about it? Thank you.
We'll see you after this break.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by Allen Toyota on I-10, exit 38 Gulfport. See all of the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota. Listen to Ole Miss football on SuperTalk 103.1.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had 2 different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Mayor FoFo Gilich from the city of Biloxi. We've covered the waterfront from cruising the coast to COVID to hurricanes and points in between. But why don't we shift gears now? And Michael Sunderman and I talked yesterday about the Universal Broadwater project. Roy Anderson is a friend of mine, and we've been pretty much staying in touch through the process. And man, there's a tremendous amount of commitment beginning to grow around that project. But that project in particular, we knew all along that the Broadwater campus, the way I describe it, needed to be kind of a destination resort. It couldn't be a boutique scenario. It needed to be, and they've held out. Cotton and Roy Anderson have looked at lots of different proposals along the way, but the right one hasn't emerged. This one seems like the right one, doesn't it, Mayor?
It does. It's really exciting. The thing, and what the governor did a tremendous job in Mississippi Development Authority, in really pointing out that music in Mississippi, and I added, Biloxi and the Broadwater, it goes together. That's like a song. And I think, the commitment from MDA is what we're going to do, city and county, to it's a long way from being done. I mean, there's some infrastructure incentives challenges that we're going to be, addressing and laying it out. But, when you look at, at $1.1 billion, that's a number with 9 zeros behind it, and that's significant. But there are other opportunities down here. We mentioned a little bit like the Tivoli, but I mean, each one has its significance. But of Universal, the U Music Hotels component of this with the theme, if you've seen the renderings, I mean, it's It's none like, it's one of a kind in the world, not just in the country. It's in the world if it comes to fruition.
It really is. I love creativity and vision, man. I mean, to put it all together in this one site. And what's really interesting about Universal Music in this particular case is that they're betting beyond COVID. They're saying, we've got to place our bets. And in this particular case, they want to get into this sector of business, and they've picked the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Orlando, and Atlanta to sort of start the conversations. So we have a really good opportunity, and we're lucky. We're lucky that we've got people like Roy Anderson, for example, who started Andecor, new construction business, and as I pointed out in my conversation with Michael, one of the top construction executives in the United States. The fact that he lives here and he's thoughtfully going through this process, bringing in these partners that can really transform something like the Broadwater property. We're lucky to have him, aren't we?
No question. I mean, and transformational. I mean, that's an understatement. So I don't know. There was one part of the press conference and asking about this giant, Texas Stadium-like video part of the deal. I said, that's for the folks who want to watch this stuff from Ship Island. I mean, that's it. But, no, like I said, it's a long way from done, but hey, it's a lot further than I thought we would be. And the press conference, the interaction with the, heavy duty folks, and the company we're in, Atlanta and Orlando, that's pretty good company.
It really is. You mentioned the Tivoli. So the Tivoli is happening, the conversation around the Tivoli. It's not a new conversation. It's been there for a while. Talk to me about the evolution of that conversation.
Well, kind of understanding that this stuff would have been done in 2007, pretty much the same footprint. There's $40 million or so worth of investment that it took place back in 2007. 28 acres that adjoins. We talked a little bit about the yacht club and some of the local things. So that was integral. They've been on that property, been paying taxes on that property since 2007. And as things change, and you look at, and that I live and breathe numbers. And I'm watching these numbers, and it was time. And like you mentioned, alluded to, you got to think after COVID, because after whatever long term, and I think that's the deal. And they're serious as well as you music. This is a serious opportunity, and it's like water. You can't have it. You can't hold it in your hands very long.
So let's do this. So people who don't know, let's make sure they understand where we're talking. So the Tivoli Hotel was a very historic hotel and bar. Actually, a lot of history there. It was ultimately destroyed in Hurricane Katrina, mostly destroyed and ultimately taken down. And then this land was gathered around it, and it sat next to where the current Biloxi Yacht Club is located. The Biloxi Yacht Club is a wonderful building that is a little bit too much for them now. And so, so the thought is to bring all of that together into one conglomerate of land. And that would then give them access from a Thailand's point of view to the areas south of Highway 90. Talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, well, in the early days of gaming in the 90s, that was beachfront. They didn't, there was some, some obstacles regarding what they would do on the beachfront. Well, it turns out when the change of law 800 feet away from the water's edge, that changed the whole ball game as far as the Tivoli, as it's, proposed, they don't use the beachfront. They just have to have access for the law in order to move forward with their, and that's why the Tidelands conversation and all this in lieu and these other tax situations are popping up. Well, they've made those accommodations. They've offered some arrangements with the yacht club and acquisition, and the obstacles are dollars now with regard to going forward. But that's a significant project too.
Yeah, I look forward to staying in touch with you about that project as we go forward. But anyway, we're out of time, Mayor. It's been terrific catching up with you. Thank you for your continued leadership and your friendship. Okay, we'll talk again in a few weeks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Tell everybody I say hello and your family.
You that, buddy. Have a great day.
You too.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk 103.1.